So good morning, everybody. Yes. So good morning and also welcome from my side. So my name is Antonio Perlotta. I'm the Secretary General of the European Motorcycle Industry Association. Very glad to be here. Again, congratulations to Anesdor for organizing this event, which I think is allowing us over the next 2 days to talk a lot about motorcycle safety from different angles. I know we're a bit behind schedule and I would like to move forward. I'd like to call here on the stage with me, please, the participants to this session. I would like to have next to me María Seguí from representing WHO. I'd like to have also with me Edwin Bastiaensen from IMMA. And please also join me, just a second, Veronique Rondeau from the UN Road Safety Fund. So these are the participants, and I will introduce them later on as we move forward. We also have participants online, and in particular one participant which is with a very tight schedule, so I would like to start immediately with Claire Depré. I don't know, Claire, if you're online, can you please connect us? Here we are. Good morning, Claire. So, thanks for joining. I know you're on a tight schedule, so just a short introduction. So Claire Depré is the head of the Road Safety Unit in DG Move of the European Commission. Before being in this position, Claire was head of unit of Sustainable and Intelligent Transport, and before that, head of unit for Intelligent Transport Systems. So there's a lot of connections between, I would say, the topic we're discussing today, which is road safety. We started in the opening speeches with the Spanish local national perspective. We had some data about road safety in Spain. I think as we move forward now in the international policy session, we will take some distance from Spain. We widen a bit the lens to Europe with you, and then we will go to the international environment. So Claire, the floor is yours. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Antonio, and very happy to be with you, though not in Zaragoza, a city that I really don't know yet, and I'm saying yes because I really like to see it in the near future. But let me go back to road safety and to the motorcycle community. I'll start a bit with a few data. We have just released last week, actually, the number of the road safety figures. Unfortunately, this year was probably the year where we have been saying that for the last couple of years, but we really comes at a point where we have eaten all the benefits again in COVID. So unfortunately, the figures are going up again, as you can see. So you see the number of deaths for last year, more than 3,300 of these were motorcyclists, which actually mean that 1 of 6 of our fatalities concern motorcyclists, which really say to us that much more attention needs to be put on this user category. I will not mention necessarily the serious injuries figures for those who are very closely working on EU level, but also at the national level. We all know that this data are a little bit more complicated to produce. Accuracy of the data is not always at best still, because sometimes we get underreporting, but of our overall estimate, and it's really an estimate, it says that actually 20,000 motorcyclists per year are seriously injured. And that means that many of these have life-changing consequences. So again, that's another element to tell us that much more needs to be done for these constituencies and for this category of road users. When we look at the matrix, that's still data from 2022, because we produce that once we have really the final figures. So out of these 3,300 killed person, 38% are in crashes that are not involving any other type of vehicle. On the contrary, 43% are crashes involving a car, 5 as the result of a collision with a heavy-duty vehicle, and 7 with a lorry. So again, that's kind of physical, I imagine, but the more weight the vehicle has, the more problematic the impact is. But if we go back 2 seconds again on the last decade, and we usually tend to look at figures also from a decade perspective, and we take the figures from 2012 to 2022, we see that the number of motorcyclists are felt actually by 10%, which is a slower rate compared to most of the other road safety users. So to give you a comparison, 10% for motorcyclists, 21% for the overall reduction over this full period. So in the short term, if we get back a little bit closer to us, 2019, 2022, motorcyclist fatalities fell by 6% compared to an overall 10%. So it really shows that, again, focus needs to be there. I have not bring with me...
Claire, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you trying to show the presentation also? Because you had some slides, but we don't see them here. So I don't know if this has been arranged.
So I don't know why.
Because it might be easier to follow this.
Yeah, apologies. We will go on with that. Just the message on these overall figures is, as I've said, that actually motorcyclists are really not served very well, and that means that in terms of policies, in terms of measures that are being taken at national or also EU level, we should be focusing much more on this type of category of road users. When we look at the figures on a national level, we see that Greece, Cyprus are by far the worst fatality rate. Italy accounts for 23% of all motorcyclists killed. And if we look at the trends overall in the overall year, we all, of course, because that's also linked a little bit to the climate, of course, summer months are the ones which are the most problematic. Now, when we look at the data, we look at the outcome, which normally is not the perfect one. But we try to understand a little bit better. And so much has been done as part of a EU project, Baseline, in the last few years, and Trendline more recently, to understand through key performance indicators in the field of road safety what the situation was. And I will not say that this is the key performance indicators for motorcyclists, because actually many of those we are gathering are actually having an impact on the safety of motorcyclists. But one gathered data looked at helmet wearing. And here, I would say in general terms, the compliance rate that we saw overall the EU was quite good. But still, there were some areas of concern, Bulgaria, Cyprus, and Greece the most. So we hope that with new data coming with Trendline and a lot of measures being taken also at national level, these figures overall can improve over time. Now, from the data to the policy, and you asked me to highlight a little bit what was happening from an EU perspective. I would start with the road safety package, which we adopted March this year. 3 legal proposals, one, I would say, much more on the preventive side, 2 others more on the enforcement side. So we propose a revision of the driving license directive, a revision of the cross-border enforcement directive, where we exchange information and we enable a better exchange of information between national authorities, and a new directive on driver disqualification. The 3 of them are extremely useful, I would say, and have certainly provide a number of measures that are also supporting better road safety for motorcyclists. I'm actually quite under pressure today because indeed we have the Transport Committee hopefully endorsing the outcome of a trilogue that we had on the cross-border enforcement directive. The same will go in less than 1 hour time in Coreper. What I want to highlight, maybe besides the range of offenses that we are covering in that context, is the fact that we have empowered much more, also thanks to the presidency, we have empowered much more member states cooperation through mutual assistance. And this mutual assistance even can apply at the stage of the enforcement of the fines. So we really hope that this makes a game changer in the enforcement policies. For the two other proposals, first reading of the Parliament on the table, attention much more to vulnerable road users, including when it comes to driver disqualification. So I will not mention more than that because we will have certainly other occasion to look into it. Just the last point that I want to mention is the upcoming work. And in terms of the upcoming work, you know that we have a road safety management, infrastructure management directive. As part of this work, we are developing guidelines when it comes to self-enforcing and self-explanatory roads. We have noted, and we are very happy to have on board the motorcyclist constituency. I really swear we will put really road user at the core, at the center, really with a road user-centric approach, so that we can try to see how to best, develop guidelines and best practices in that area, so that many member states can take that on board. Especially having in mind also motorcyclists in that context. We aim to have this work finalized by 2026. So a lot of work ahead of us, but still I know a very committed community. Roadworthiness package, we have done a lot of work on that front. Be reassured that we have been taken into account all the contribution received so far from every type of road safety stakeholders, including from this community. The solid work that I think many public authorities are expecting and the road safety stakeholders at large will certainly lead to a package of proposal as soon as possible. I want to also stress that the general safety regulation will come at some point to a midterm review, some sort of evaluation 2027, and maybe a request to all of you to think a little bit about how technology in the vehicle can help also outside of the vehicle. So I hope that you start thinking and start reflecting of any input you might wish to provide in that context. And to finalize, just to say that these two let's call them governance structure, the one at national level and the one at EU level are very interlinked, right? That's the message that the Court of Auditors, the European Court of Auditors, has provided very recently, highlighting the fact that we have not done enough in terms of efforts to support the road safety objective, both in terms of 2030, where we have to halve fatalities and serious injuries, as well as reaching then this almost close to zero death and serious injuries in the EU. So with that in mind, we are working with member states. We will have a lot of work going on in the next months to evaluate a little bit where we stand, whether our measures, EU and also the national measures, are up to the needs and to the efforts that are needed, with the aim to be able to see how to take the best advantage of the last 5 years of this decade and putting us back in the right track. Many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. I think it's a shame we couldn't see the slides, but we will maybe circulate them afterwards, because many of the data you were mentioning are actually clearly shown on those slides, and it helps position the different countries, because this is, at the end of the day, as you said, the joint effort at EU level is requiring efforts at all member states level to improve the situation overall, and so it is important to see where all the countries are basically positioned. Just a few minutes, because you talked to us about what is in the pipeline also for the next Commission. I think this is also very important, also knowing that road safety will remain for sure a key objective and a key policy goal for the Union. If I just think about the motorcycling, I mean, you mentioned the roadworthiness package on the one hand. I mean, you mentioned driving license, which is partially gone through the legislative process, but is not finished. What would you expect, or what would be your expectations when it comes to improvements from the sector at large? I mean, we have in the room here from users to the industry to authorities at different levels of government, whether it's urban, regional, national, or even, of course, international, as we said. What would be, in your view, the area where with motorcycling there could be a major step forward to be made in the next 5 to 10 years? You talked about 2030 being an objective, of course, of further reducing fatalities. Where would you see that really coming from? Assuming there's a silver bullet, which there isn't probably, but okay.
So probably not, but that does not mean that there are not many silver bullets that altogether should lead to better road safety figures, and that's actually what we all are trying to achieve through this safe system approach. And that's why, if you look a little bit at the measures I have highlighted, you have elements related to infrastructure, where I think that allowing the infrastructure to play entirely its role in helping to reduce the severity of possible crashes is an important one. Another one is certainly user behavior. And that's why I have started with the package that we have put on the table. And I think that here you really have these preventive measures. Now we can discuss whether, only foreseeing training and focusing the attention at the moment of the driving licenses is the right way forward. Remember that here we have also, in the context of the proposal, one point which relates to the long life training in the terms of road safety. And I think that here there's a lot of activities running at member states level which are aimed at achieving that goal. So remembering that when you take the car, when you take a truck, when you take a bike, wherever you are on a vehicle, which or mean of transport, including the motorcyclist, you take care of yourself as you should take care of the others too. And that's why we are trying to push very much more the attention on vulnerable road users. So that's one point I want to mention. Of course, enforcement is also part of the solution, I would say. And there too, we have now also a lot of other type of instrument where we want to extend the cooperation with member states. We have tried to engage also with the banking sector, with the European Bank of Investment to try to stimulate investment at national level through the exchange program, which I have not mentioned. The Road Safety Exchange Program, we are really trying to see how we can build on the strength of certain member states in others that are a little bit lacking behind. And there too, I think that through the facilitation of the cooperation between all sorts of authorities, being them at ministry level, but also at local level, might be an important one. So investment have been taken place on that front. When it comes to the roadworthiness package, of course, let's say there is some sort of urgency, right? On the one hand, because of the emission-related aspect, but also when it comes to the road safety elements. And I would also tend to say, and link it also a little bit to the general safety regulation, that all the things that we are bringing inside of a vehicle with the potential of helping us to reduce that and that and that, we really want to see that this is happening, right? So on that side, we want to make sure that actually the system works on the lifespan of the vehicle. On the other hand, we also want to make sure that actually the promises are being met, and that's why we have also a lot of expectation when it comes to this evaluation of the general safety regulation. Now, when I was saying that this should be still a joint effort, I think that we will also soon come to a point where we have to see how to take advantage and implement what we have already put on the table, negotiated and discussed at EU level, But on the other hand, there are still many more measures that can and should be taken also at local level and at national level. And this is where this overall comprehensive evaluation that we are launching should help us seeing where to focus much more the effort in the remaining period so that we are really able to make these figures go down, and not just because we have a disruption, which we took advantage during the COVID time, right? So I would say not one single silver bullet, but the need to continue working on all fronts, because it's only through redundancy that we will be able to reduce, if not even stop, crashes that could have been avoided easily, to say the least. Thank you.
Thank you. So from Zaragoza, we thank you. Wish you all the best for the rest of the day, and we continue the discussion here. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay.
We have agreed that when we speak, we'll stand up until they're sitting there so that the people
can watch. Sounds good. Okay, so I would suggest we move then with the rest of the program. We'll introduce María Seguí as our next speaker. So Dr. Seguí has a degree in medicine and general surgery and a master's in public health from different universities, I would say, in Spain and also in the US. She is specialized in road traffic injuries, so there's a perfect link with what we've been discussing. She was also Director General of Traffic for the whole of Spain, and under her leadership, the traffic fatalities were reduced by 18%. So at the moment, you're working as an international consultant for the FIA, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, the World Bank, and the World Health Organization. And you will be speaking for the WHO today, presenting us also latest developments. So I'll leave you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here again in Zaragoza and to see so many well-known faces and to meet new people. Hello, Pilar. I will speak about the WHO report. So the rest of the presentation will be in English. We will change languages according to need.
That I'm going to be talking about is not the end, it's just one more step along a massive effort to collect information on mobility and safety worldwide. And the report has been the work of the past 2 years, and 194 member states were subjected to collecting data on their mobility and mobility outcomes. And I will start with the end, and that is that the report shows that the number of road deaths continues to be unacceptably high. We are talking about 1,900,000 deaths every year, and this is a rather high number that has been so for many decades now. A parameter that the report highlights for the first time ever is that most of the deaths are happening in working age population. And this is very important because we've heard this morning about people delivering things in motorbikes, going to work in their motorbikes, etc., etc. And it is the case that for all ages combined, road traffic continues to be the 12th leading cause of death. Now, if one zooms in the younger population, where death is such an outrageous event, the number of deaths is much smaller. The percent of the deaths is very small, yet for people on those ages, road traffic deaths continue to be the leading cause of death. This statement that you have heard so many times continues to be true, but let's not take the eyes away from the important stuff. Most of those dying on the road are dying on the road because they are going to work, coming back to work, or working while they are on the road. And this is something to keep in mind. Everybody turns their attention to this graph on the report. This is the 1.19 million deaths that I'm talking about. But please note that this is a mathematical model, because not all the countries are capable of counting the number of fatal victims in a comparable manner. And the reason I emphasize this modeling strategy is because many of you might remember the 1.35 million deaths that were presented in the last report. Well, because we incorporate new data and we model time and again, the model gets revisited. And so the corresponding number for the 2016 year is not the 135 that you remember. The right number is 121. And so just correct that in your heads. But nevertheless, the important thing is that we are at 1.19 million deaths, which is the same number we estimate for the year 2000. So we are still having a very high number, continued over time with slight increases and slow decreases, and the peak related to the COVID mobility restrictions that we all went through if we survived COVID. This is not acknowledging the fact that in that same period, the population of the world has increased by 1,000 million people, and the fleet of the vehicles have increased by nearly 2.5 times. And so we have many more people moving around in many more vehicles, but yet the absolute number of deaths continues to be this figure. Many of you might remember that 2010 was declared the first year of the first decade of action by a resolution of the United Nations General Assembly. And if you want the evaluation of this decade, the answer is down here. 1 decade of action with everybody focusing on road safety has brought us to a 5% reduction, which is something, and let's applaud that, but it's far from the 50% reduction that was set as the goal. We have been given a second chance because now there is another decade of action starting in 2020 and going on 2030. Let's see if we get more luck at that. This 5% reduction is the world average reduction, but if you break the world by regions, you see that the reductions have been uneven. It is actually Europe, and we just had Claire, and Spain is integrated in this region. It is Europe that has had the most improvement. Deaths in Europe have decreased by 36% in this decade. But this impressive reduction is only followed by the Western Pacific region, and then everybody else stays either flat or goes up, as it is the case of the African region. So averages can be mischievous because they hide very different realities. We have a few countries who have managed to reduce their deaths by 50%. And they have to be congratulated, and you have their names on the top. You can read them all. We have nearly 15 other countries who have managed to reduce their deaths between 40 and 49%. And you have them on the second stop. Yes, there are some surprising names on this slide. On the other side of the coin, we have many countries who have increased their deaths. When it comes to the big countries, I would like to call your attention to the fact that China and Brazil are the largest countries, and they both have reduced their road deaths by 10 and 20% respectively. On the other case, we have India and the United States of America, the latter dictating most of our mobility patterns. India has increased by 2%. The USA has increased by 33% their deaths. So I think we are clearly seeing what we don't want to do, mobility patterns that we don't want to replicate, versus examples of countries in very different environments, in very different socioeconomic points, doing very good work. Inequities remain. These graphs, you might recognize from previous reports, try to showcase how the population versus the deaths on the roads versus the powered vehicles versus the infrastructure are so vastly distributed in inequitable manners. Let's focus on high-income countries because we are in a high-income country. High-income countries are colored in green, and the world population is distributed in the first pie. 16% of the world population lives in a high-income country like Spain. Yet, despite there being 16% of the population, when it comes to the distribution of the deaths, it is only 8% of the road deaths that happen in high-income countries. 92% of the road deaths happen in low and middle-income countries, and they do not ride these motorbikes. When it comes to the distribution of the vehicles, it's even worse because, as you can see, we, high-income countries, have 28% of the motorized fleet and 88% of the paved road network. So what this slide is telling us is that most people are dying out of a very small fraction of vehicles driving in a very small and poorly developed road network. And so whether our experience is of relevance or not, I leave up for discussion, because maybe that is a different paradigm and we need to change gears. This is not deaths, this is fleet. And this is simply to show to you that with the data from the previous report, it is clear that motorbikes are the most predominant means of transportation in some regions, Southeast Asia leading the way. I mentioned at the beginning that the report that was launched in December is only one step along the way. We are right now in the middle of reanalyzing all the data that we got with a focus on motorcycles, and I'm going to be updating this slide in coming weeks with the most recent data. And I show this because now I'm going to show you, let me just, here, the 1.19 million deaths worldwide, if you distribute it by a region in the world, what do you see? The region with the most deaths is Southeast Asia. Remember, that's the region with the most motorcycles, followed by the Western Pacific region, which was the region with the second most motorcycles, followed by the African region, which is also high on motorcycles. So without any further analysis, there is a clear connect linking the two of them. Worse yet, and I come back for a second, worse yet, the data on power two-wheelers in previous reports was somewhat messy because people were putting together vulnerable road users of motorized means of transport all in one same category. And in this report, we have gone through the effort of asking countries specifically about motorized power two-wheelers versus bikes, electric or not, versus e-scooters or other means of micromobility transportation. And so that's why we are in the middle of revisiting this whole distribution, because now we can have a better granularity on the findings. But regardless of how we count them, the fact of the matter is that we see that when it comes to the increase in the motorized fleet, motorcycles, power two, three-wheeler motorcycles have increased by nearly 300% since 2010. Following every other figure that has been mentioned in this report. And this overall finding is replicating country by country as you go through different reports of different institutions documenting these huge increases in the number of motorbikes that are sold. And again, these are not these motorbikes. An interesting thing, and I'm coming to the end, is that we actually went to IRAP, which is one of the organizations present here, and checked on the quality of the infrastructure. And yes, we are building roads left and right, and even today we are building not safe roads. Many of you might know that IRAP is a standard for safety on the infrastructure, and it is thought that a 3-star or higher in a non to 5-star rating is reasonably safe as a means to stimulate better infrastructure. Even the roads that we are building today for cars are far from being good. Only 40% of the roads that we build are 3-star or higher for 4-car vehicles. But look at what happens if we zoom in the safety of the roads for motorcycles. Barely 21% of them are minimally safe for motorcycles. So plenty to do there too. Look at this, even with legislation. This is one bite, one example. We looked into the legislation on helmet use for all the countries in the world and colored those legislations in green if they have a law that meets best practice criteria, color it red if they don't have a law or it is a really poor law, or orange or yellow, depending on your color blindness, whether the law is somewhere in between. And out of 194 member states, only 54 are green in this map. Because only 54 countries have a helmet use law that meets all the specific criteria stated below. So what I'm trying to say is that we do have a problem, otherwise we wouldn't have a conference, and we have plenty of things to say. And yes, Spain is yellow. And Spain is yellow, which is the noise that is going in the background, because the law does not include the requirement to the helmet to be fitted. So it's not a mistake. So what does the report conclude on motorized power two-wheelers? Well, the report concludes that there is a problem and we need to zoom in. And that's exactly why I said that right now we are working on a specific three-wheeler document, because we got information on all these things listed in here that we need to analyze. For example, we got legislation on speed limits as they apply to motorcycles in the countries. We don't know how those laws work. We got information on whether mandatory insurance is required for two three-wheelers, whether mandatory vehicle inspection is mandatory for this type of vehicles. All the things that traditionally we have looked into for four-wheel vehicles, we want to look for power two-wheelers for the first time in history. And the list is long and work is a lot, but we are moving along through this. And not only that, but because we agree there is no question on the need to emphasize further and to work more on this matter, we produce two streams of products. On the one hand, there is the data. The data for this report is going to be publicly available on the WHO website so that you all can do any further analysis on your convenience. I hope that you all have the WHO road safety application on your mobiles, and if you don't, in a spare moment during the meeting, please download it. But also, the WHO has recently uploaded, they have produced the second edition of the Power 2 three-wheeler safety book, which clearly segregates recommended interventions as to whether they have proven evidence, suspicious evidence, or evidence that they don't work. And as you can see, there is more that we don't know that we know when it comes to the safety of the power two-wheelers. And not only that, we just announced the establishment of a technical advisory group. There was a public announcement to express interest. There was a selection, and now last week they held the first meeting ever. They are going to have a second meeting in mid-May, and the purpose of this advisory group is precisely to dictate what are the items that WHO has to be including in their work for the next 2 years, specifically pertaining to motorized two-wheelers. And you can check on the names of the people who have been selected to be part of this advisory group. But not only that, you could apply to be an observer of the group if you so wanted. There is a procedure to be an observer and to be witness of the types of decisions that they put together. And with that said, I stop thanking you for the opportunity and thanking all the countries who volunteer the data, including particularly, forgive me for saying this, Alvaro, who was the gracious Spaniard cavalier making the Spanish data particularly worthwhile. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, thank you, Dr. Seguí. We now have two video recording interventions. The first one is from Secretary General of ITF, Dr. Young Tae Kim. Basically, Mr. Young Tae Kim was unable to make it today, but he sends his regards. He's been Secretary General of ITF for 2 mandates, is now in the second mandate, and during this period of time, he strengthened the role of the ITF as a convener of transport policy leaders and a global platform for dialogue for better transport. Before being ITF Secretary General, Dr. Kim distinguished himself in the civil service of his native Korea, serving as Director General in a series of departments linked to sustainable mobility. He holds a master's degree in public policy and in urban studies. I think we can launch the video, please.
Estimados todos,
Dear all, it's a pleasure for me to participate today in this very important event about road safety for motorcycles. I am so sorry that my agenda doesn't allow me to be there with you. Road safety for motorcycle riders is so important in order to reduce the number of fatalities and serious injuries in our roads around the world. Road safety for the motorcycle riders is a priority for the ITF. No one can deny that motorcycles or motorized vehicles, PTWs, are a key part of mobility. Motorcycles are one of the most common means of transport in the world. They are affordable, flexible, and efficient, especially in conditions of intense traffic, so that the fleet around the world has increased, especially in middle and low-income countries. As a result, the proportion of motorized vehicles in some countries, two-wheel vehicles, it's very high. In 80% in Indonesia, for example, or 73% in Colombia. Unfortunately, the increasing popularity of motorcycles comes hand in hand with huge challenges as regards road safety. According to the last report of the WHO on road safety, motorcycle riders are 21% of all road fatalities in the world in 2021. But there are huge regional differences. In some countries, motorcycle riders are more than half of the total of fatalities on the roads. For example, more than 60% in Colombia in 2022. We must act in order to improve the safety for motorcycle riders, in order to reach the objectives of the second decade of action for road safety. The second decade of action for the UN for road safety has ambitious objectives in order to reduce serious accidents and fatalities in accidents by 2030. In order to achieve those objectives, we have to be committed and act swiftly. The governments must do this, but also all of the parties. The good news is that the measures introduced to improve motorcycle rider safety can help create a safer system for all users of the road. In 2021, the ITF organized a workshop on motorcycle safety, and more than 100 experts participated, representing all the different interest stakeholders, including public policy developers, manufacturers, users. They agreed unanimously 8 priority actions. These actions include calls to intelligent use of urban spaces, the introduction of safe vehicles according to international standards, the prioritization of managing speed, training for drivers, and promoting a road safety culture, improvement of infrastructure for motorcycles, etc. Public transport is also essential and key in order to improve road safety. We must invest in transport alternatives which are trustworthy and affordable. We may reduce the pressure on our roads and reduce the risk for everyone. It is also important to acknowledge the regional dimension. There is not a one solution for all. At the moment, we are moving forward with conversations with the Colombian transport minister in order to organize a regional workshop on road safety for motorcycles in Colombia by the end of the year. And I want to conclude by thanking you for allowing me to speak to you today. I wish you a very productive conference, and please be assured that International Transport Forum, it is committed to this cause. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to continue with the second video, as I mentioned, we also have a video from the International Motorcycle Manufacturers Association. So Mr. Eric de Seynes is president of IMMA, the voice of the global motorcycle manufacturing industry. He has been holding a series of positions within Yamaha over a very long career. For the last 40 years, he was always involved in the motorcycle field, even before starting his professional life, including racing, endurance, and even Dakar rally since he was 17 years old. In his professional career, he developed a very wide expertise and network of contacts related to power two-wheelers through his different experiences related to product development, sales and marketing, motorsports and industry. He was president of the French Association for the Motorcycle Industry, has been involved in the work of the European Association, ASEM, including as vice president, and as I mentioned, currently is the president of IMMA. So I think we can hear the video contribution, please. Thank you.
I'm really sorry because I cannot be present with you due to other duties, but it's my honor to address a few words at the beginning of this ANESDOR Conference 2024. Firstly, allow me to remind you of what the IMMA is. IMMA federates the motorcycle manufacturer associations from different regions in the world and therewith represent the interest of the manufacturers, the OEMs of mopeds, motorcycle and scooters, 2, 3-wheelers, mostly referred to as power 2 and 3-wheelers. This year, the IMMA celebrates the 75th anniversary of its foundation. The establishment of IMMA happened in a context of the European United Nations, ECE, Inland Transport Committee, founded in this period to help reconstruct Europe after the World War II. This forum also hosts the WP29, the working group for the harmonization of the vehicle technical regulations. IMMA advocates towards and engaged with global regulatory and policy forums such as the WP29, the International Transport Forum, and World Health Organization. More concretely, since 2012, IMMA has been a member of the ITARD and also the ITF's International Road Safety Accident Database project. IMMA is also engaged towards the World Health Organization as a member of the United Nations Road Safety Collaboration. Let me also thank ANESDOR for inviting us and organizing, with the support and cooperation of the Spanish General Direction of Traffic, this international conference on motorcycle road safety. Spain, being one of the leading motorcycle countries in Europe, with a fleet of nearly 6 million power two-wheelers, I feel it very legitimate that they host this conference on this very important topic. With regards to international policy research and development, let me take the opportunity to endorse the efforts and results on motorcycle safety by the International Transport Forum. I refer in particular to the recent series of motorcycling, safety and mobility workshops held in 2021, delivering 8 important recommendations toward establishing safe and sustainable motorcycling mobility policy, adaptable to all regions in the world. The representation and contribution of different regions at this conference will help monitoring the diversity of motorcycling across the regions, varied user groups, road infrastructure, vehicle types, climate and economic context. Factors that should not be overlooked when developing successful and affordable sustainable mobility policy. We have acknowledged the importance of road safety for OEMs. Safety is inherently connected to the product and is competitive, and mobility means safety. With a growing market, more users, more kilometers ridden, we need to work together to ensure safe, sustainable motorcycling. OEMs cannot do that alone, and it's a shared responsibility. And this is why conferences like this one, hosted in Zaragoza, are so important. As all of you know, powered two-wheelers safety is also very complex. It requires an integrated approach with 4 main steps. The first one, we need inclusive mobility plans. PTWs require a specific framing and dedicated policy at national and urban level. Secondly, the road infrastructure need to be adapted and designed for their users. Are roads sufficiently adapted to other road users than cars? This is a question. And there are diverse PTW-friendly road design concept and implementation, but they are more than an exception. Third, we should ensure that motorcycle riders have the needed traffic scanning and vehicle operation skills. This means that rider training is very important to improve this, with both basic and post-license and advanced rider trainings. Fourth, last step, technology will provide benefits, but they come at a cost and may not be as effective in all conditions and environment. Technology cannot compensate unsafe navigations. The popularity of motorcycles continue to increase. They provide huge benefits to society and low environmental trusts. Organized host either speech general traffic will help define the solutions and we must put it
Okay, I think we continue. Yes, very good. So to complement this message, given the video was also a bit cut, I also invite Edwin Bastiaensen, the Secretary General of IMMA, to give us a few more words to complement Eric's video. Please.
Thank you, Antonio, and good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak and also the opportunity to IMMA's president to participate in this conference. Congratulations, Annesdoor, DGT. It's really a wonderful day. I'm the only one standing a little bit in the sun, but it's a nice place, never been here before. And of course, some delegates joined by video or remote, but it means that is really the opportunity of organizing an international conference. So I think that's our new world. We can organize international conferences. We don't have to be fully in person present. So thank you also for the opportunity for being able to broadcast or allow people to remotely participate. So I think that's really the solution for being able to share our knowledge across different continents and participate from that perspective. Now the challenge with, of course, with motorcycling is that we organize international events, but there's huge differences, huh? And that's a bit what we will explain with regards to motorcycling. We try also to put that in a document explaining, and every few years we have given out a new version that explains a bit how you can identify the differences. I brought a few copies, but you can also download it. I can go very quickly with regards to the who's IMMA. My president already explained it, but I will spend a minute on the diversity of their usage and re-explain what Eric Design just explained, the four-step approach that we as manufacturers believe is the approach to follow. It's not just saying we have 4 topics. It's first the first topic, then the second, then the third, and then the fourth. It's not, and of course, all of them. So it's already explained, IMMA is a federation of manufacturing associations. So our members are the OEMs, so those manufacturing the vehicles, and they are working together in national associations to support national policy making, national market development, etc. So you see is participation across all the continents, from India, Asia, Latin America, Europe, and United States. When we speak of the use of power two-wheelers, we often forget that it's also being used for all kind of other professional use, meaning the first responders. So we have police using them. We have also blood or health products being distributed by motorcycles because they can go faster, they can be very dynamic, but they're also used for sports. Sports is a fantastic thing. There's not sports on the road, but sports as a general and leisure. We should not forget that motorcycling involves people who are passionate, and it involves people who are doing this because they have a job, they need to get to their work, they need to get to their studies. They are really not just a form of mobility, they are a form of life and enabling life in many regions of the world. And when we look at it from a regulatory perspective, we have many different types of power two-wheelers, and the smallest ones start with the very light assisted bicycles. Are they a motorcycle? In some countries, they are recognized as being an electric e-bike. If they go faster, the requirements should be somehow similar. And then we call them L1. L3 are the motorcycles, which have design speeds of 50 kilometers and more, and have generally 2 wheels, but there are conditions that you can even design such a vehicle with 3 wheels. And then you have options also where you add an additional vehicle which, in a complete different stability design. If we look at it where we have a higher concentration of power two-wheelers on roads, we can see that there are, and this map is already a few years old, we are currently producing a new edition with the help of our colleagues from WHO. Because they have a new set of data. And then we will see actually that this area that we see now as dark blue has expanded significantly more, especially in Latin America. A little bit more if we would have a darker version, now we say 70%. We are seeing markets where the use of power two-wheelers is going beyond 80%. We're going to 90% of when you look outside, 90% of the vehicles on the road are two-wheelers, powered two-wheelers. It's incredible, and we have to not forget that this has a huge impact on how to organize traffic. And also that, of course, influences what it means if you have roads that are not designed for it, as WHO reported already earlier today. 21% only of the roads, if they are measured, are satisfactorily designed for powered two-wheelers. That's, of course, a huge problem. And then I want to make another note here when we see of the percentages of powered two-wheelers in the different regions. In the US, we heard there is an increase. In African region, I think it's mostly an estimate because we lack a lot of data there and must be continuously a huge challenge. In Southeast Asian region, 48%. But that, of course, as I wrote in blue at the bottom, it really depends because there you have maybe one motorcycle for every 3 persons. So the number of vehicles there is much, much higher. And it doesn't mean therefore, that on a per vehicle basis, motorcycling is less safe. So, coming to the main message I want you to consider during this conference is, in the first place, is that we should not forget the two-wheelers. So this conference is obviously a clear demonstration that we should include powered two-wheelers in public policies, but I will go a little bit in more depth. Second is, we need to create the enabling conditions, as was already also stated in the presentation. We need to make sure the infrastructure is adapted for two-wheelers. And of course, the behavior of the driver is important. So training does not just involve vehicle control skills, it involves also vehicle navigation. How do you get to your destination? What speed are you using? And do you wear a helmet? Because we as manufacturers, we have no control over the driver, whether he wears his helmet. That's about educating. And then, of course, there are technologies that may help making the vehicle perform better in certain conditions. So, starting with the first point on motorcycle must be positively included in public policy, is also we can benefit from the congestion avoidance advantage. So powered two-wheelers have a huge opportunity to bypass traffic, to be efficient from A to B. If you want to benefit from that, you also have to design roads for that. And we should plan them inside at the national level, at the regional level, and at the local level. So cities must have a local public transport, local motorcycle plan. How to consider that? Is there parking for two-wheelers? Infrastructure, I already mentioned. So we should identify two-wheelers as a specific group, consider their needs. Training, there are many different types of training topics that you should do. There is the initial licensing, but also while getting more and more experience, you need to continuously learn. You need to continue, because people will maybe choose for a different type of vehicle, choose for a different type of behavior. You need to continuously update your skills and remember also that you are a vulnerable group and learn how to deal with that. And harmonized vehicle requirements and technology advances. We as IMMA, we as the Global Manufacturing Organization, we contribute to the development of vehicle requirements and the performance of vehicle technologies, and making sure that vehicles continue to be developed as needed to fit in society. So with that, I wanted to leave you with something to think about, and also I hope that some discussions will also be spent on this. What you see is a pilot project that has been established in 2021, officially opened in 2022 in Sao Paulo in Brazil. What you see on the left lane is a specific lane where motorcycles can drive in between. So it's sort of a road-regulated filtering solution. In many markets, it's possible. In some countries, it's not possible. Here, a special solution is created, and it proved very, very safe and very, very effective. So this is an idea of how can we look at integrating two-wheelers. Here, of course, is in the case where there are not so many motorcycles. If you have more, maybe you need many more. So that's for my introduction. Thank you.
Later. Thank you, Edwin. So, last but not least, I'd like to invite Veronique Rondeau from the UN Road Safety Fund to make a presentation. So Veronique Rondeau is the Program and Partnership Officer at the UN Road Safety Fund Secretariat. She oversees the implementation of the Secretariat's program of work and manages the entire life cycle of projects funded by the Trust Fund. Prior to assuming this role, she developed a wealth of experience in the execution of multi-country technical assistance projects across different regions, and within that, close collaboration with key stakeholders is key. So please join us on the stage for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here today. As we see, the low and middle income countries are very affected by this silent pandemic, and the road crashes, the road traffic fatalities are increasing in different regions of the world. So first, I would like to say a little bit who we are, the United Nations Road Safety Fund, and what we do. So we tackle those countries, so low and middle income countries, so those regions, and we deliver projects, thanks to our partners in those countries, projects and interventions for road safety. We were launched in 2018, so only 5 years ago, and launched by the United Nations Special Envoy for Road Safety, Jean Todt, that some of you might know. We currently implement 44 projects in 88 countries, and you can see some of them here on the map. So the fund implements projects through other UN organizations and civil society members, including different organizations you might know, like UNICEF or WHO, in regard to their different road safety specific capacities and skills. We are funded 60% by the private sector, so that's quite a unique aspect of the fund. We work with the private sector also in delivering projects on the ground. You heard so many figures this morning, but I think that it was very clear the urgency of tackling the problem in some regions, but especially the growing numbers regarding the accidents in road traffic safety and by two-wheelers. So I wanted to share with you today a few projects, a few examples of what the fund can deliver on the ground, especially regarding two-wheelers, and how we work with our partners to deliver this kind of interventions. So there are some regional interventions when we look at, for example, the Asia countries, so the ASEAN region, we say, and how it is crucial to there bring the technology and implement it at the legislation level, but also in terms of the adoption also. So here, for example, I want to stress that we really focus on bringing in this kind of project some regional commitment, so that it's not only in the standards, but also in the strategies of the countries to implement the technology and to implement the package of measures that also some of the previous speaker allude to. Here, for example, we have some projects that focus also on developing the policies and the strategies for the two-wheeler. And this, for example, is in Thailand, where they elaborate a motorcycle safety national strategy. And we are really making sure that they integrate some countermeasures to prevent accidents of two-wheelers at different levels. So as you can see, including road traffic design, the trainings, but also the enforcement. So as we heard, it's a package of measures, and this is what here we are doing also at national level. I wanted to also give you this example of the project we do in Cambodia, and here I really like the point that Maria made earlier. Two-wheelers are very used to go to work. A lot of workers, and here in Cambodia, the factory workers are using two-wheelers to go to work every day. And there's such a huge level of injuries and fatalities around this commuting. So this is a new project that around 30 factories in Cambodia were looking at not only training the factory workers, but implementing and defining a national legislation around factories, around commuting of workers, so that it is taken into account not only how they need to go to work, but what happened with the people that then lose their productivity at work because they had an accident. So it has a very big impact also on all the companies that are operating in those countries. So here we also work with some private sector companies in tackling this issue. So all of our projects, the projects that are delivered, will span around the 5 pillars of the road safety system. And then you will see that in some of them, so we work at legislation level, sometime on safer vehicles, so it could be the legislation on the two-wheelers, but it can be also at road user level, where we also do the training, the licensing, and different examples as such across those pillars. So you will see here the color code. What it means is that we have more to do in terms of technology. So I'm very pleased to hear today about the technologies and about what people will have to share. And we have more to do also in the international regulations support. And that's a little bit what the global status report also tells us, is that there's definitely a lack of the basics legislation in some countries. And this is why some of those countries are having difficulties in really reducing the number of deaths and fatalities. So investing in a safer future, so for us, based on the global status report that came out and that was very well presented, as well as the discussions we have with the partners here today, at the fund we want to prioritize two areas for funding and for really implementing the new projects as we move forward. So some of those areas you will see, it includes laws mandating the 5 core areas of vehicle safety equipment. That's super important. It will include the helmets wear. It will include also the different helmet I mentioned, yes. So these risk factors, as well as the vehicle safety equipment, I think these are the kind of priorities that talks to us today and to all of you here in the room. So one other aspect that we will be looking at is how to unlock sustainable domestic finance for road safety at domestic level, because we see that road safety is an issue that sometimes comes a bit too far on the ranking of issues in some countries. And we can understand in some countries why. But we also see that it is important, like just Spain is doing, and like EU is doing, to really put the focus not only on the legislation, but putting the resources to make sure that we can implement and we can make those policies successful and take those interventions on the ground. And then I say join the movement, because basically we are a fund, the unique and the only fund, United Nations Fund for Road Safety. And as I said, it was launched by the Special Envoy 5 years ago, and we're at the moment where we really look forward to expand our portfolio of projects, looking for innovative technologies, innovative solutions. So I'm happy to be here today and listen to you, but also happy for you to join us in the movement in donating to the fund, so that we can deliver more projects in those countries that are needed, but also channels all the good practice and knowledge from the countries here to those other countries. And I think that is very important. It's a balance between both. And just like EU is doing it, we heard Claire saying how there is an exchange between the different countries within EU. Well, that's the idea also at the fund, is that there is that channeling of support, but also of technical expertise. So with this, I hope we can talk further now during the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronique. Actually, unfortunately, I'm told there is not enough time, am I correct, for the Q&A? We ran a bit late. But maybe just summarizing, I think we heard about the importance of data. This is a very important starting point. We heard about the differences that are there, but also the commonalities. And commonalities mean we have to work together towards an objective, and this is at all levels, irrespective whether this is any given region of the world, we're sharing the same approach. So I'm sorry there's no time for Q&A. I hope there will be time for you to exchange in the coffee breaks, and for sure we will come back with the conclusions at the end of the second day tomorrow to go further. So I leave the floor to the organizers for the next step. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.